Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Fire clouds grew under the dragon Chilin's feet as he rose into the sky and ran out of the valley. Wanderer Qin Mu sat down and raised his hand to smack forward. Lightning surged forth instantly, and countless bolts of lightning coiled in the air like a green dragon which rushed towards the dragon Qin. Wanderer Qin Mu suddenly vomited blood, and his palm trembled. The thunder in palm missed its target and blew a huge hole in the mountain in front of the dragon Qin. Qin Mu was shocked. The power from the divine arts of these existences of the celestial being realm was astonishing despite them being injured. If his group got hit, they would definitely die miserably. Lu Wenxia, Ahat Pu Shan, and the rest stood up shakily, forced to vomit blood. They couldn't help feeling a lingering fear as they had all underestimated the great devil god Xiongpi that Qin Mu had summoned, which resulted in all of them being severely injured in one blow. If Daoist Kuyi had not interfered with Qin Mu's summoning once, the great devil god Xiongpi would actually have been even stronger. If that happens, at that time all of them would not have been enough to kill it. Shall we give chase? Lu Wenxu asked in a low voice. At this moment, Daoist Kuyi sat in a lotus position. With his breath shallow, he smiled miserably. This old Daoist will not be able to subdue devils with fellow Dao friends. My life force has been broken by that devil, this mortal flesh is no longer useful. Everyone was sorrowful. Daoist Kuyi chanted softly, life is but a withered leaf, falling gently on the yellow springs at its end. Fellow Dao friends, you must execute that heavenly devil cult master. I want to see him on the road to the underworld. I shall go first. When he was done, he departed this life. Lu Wenxia cried out loudly, take care, Dao friend. We will definitely send this devil to meet you. Ahat Pu Shan sighed deeply, with evident disappointment and frustration. Placing his palms together, he said respectfully, this life is but a mortal flesh, which you should shed to meet Rulai. Godspeed, Dao friend. Godspeed. Wanderer Qin Mu said while shedding tears. Luo Sanpo said, that dragon Chilin's footsteps are very fast. We need to catch up soon, otherwise, it will be bad if he will summon a second devil god. Lu Wenxu murderer spirit was awakened. He won't have the chance. There are even stronger existences waiting on the road ahead. Even though he had said so, everyone suppressed their injuries and consumed spirit pills to heal them somewhat as they rushed in Qin Mu's direction. Qin Mu took out a white bone altar and placed it on the dragon Chilin's back as he tried to summon the second devil god. However, since the dragon Qin was sprinting, the journey was slightly bumpy, and it was easy for the talisman treasure to shine on the wrong rune on the devil god sculpture. If a rune was wrong, everything he did would be wasted, so he could only give up. Qin Mu checked, but there were no injuries on his body. Hu Linga was also not injured. The dragon Qin had thick skin and flesh as well as dragon scales to protect him, so he hadn't gotten hurt, either. Only Juqian Devil King was a little deformed from the beating. Qin Mu used vermilion bird vital chi to scorch the body red hot before adjusting the deformed limbs. Juqian Devil King was so ashamed that he kept silent. Being despised by great devil god Xiongpi and getting stepped on by him was a great humiliation. Qin Mu distinguished the terrain and took out Eternal Peace's geographical map for comparison. He let out a sigh of relief and said, this place is already close to great ruins. With Dragon Chilin's leg power, I reckon we can make it to the border in another half a day. However, it'll be impossible to go past Secret Waters Pass. After getting chased, the route had already deviated away from Secret Waters Pass. He was also very far from Eternal Border Pass. What I can do now is to take the passage which my cult has used for smuggling. Qin Mu thought for a moment. There was a god-broken mountain range between Great Ruins and Eternal Peace. Mysterious pearl crossbows were lying all over that mountain range, and anyone who tried to cross its borders would be shot down. Mysterious pearl crossbows operated automatically and were rumored to have been created under the decree of a god. Anyone who crossed God-broken mountain range, no matter if they went through the mountain or over it, they would be shot to death. Heavenly Devil Cult had once run smuggling operations and had a passageway through God-broken mountain range which passed by Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, allowing one to go to and fro from great ruins and eternal peace. There were 2 mysterious pearl crossbows there that had been destroyed by Heavenly Devil Cult. However, the owner of Border Dragon City had said that the passage had been abandoned for many years. Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon was the only way Qin Mu could enter Great Ruins. The pursuers shouldn't know about this passage. Qin Mu roused his spirit and suddenly burst out laughing. It's so hard to just go home for New Year's, it's almost like there's a whole army charging at me. He had learned martial arts from the people in the village and also inherited their positive attitude. Even though he had met countless ambushed on the way, he still maintained a positive attitude. Affected by his emotions, the dragon Qilin and Hulinga were also more relaxed. The sky turned dimmer in time, and the surroundings became even more desolate. After traveling for quite a long time, not a village could be seen. Barging into Great Ruins at night is definitely a sure death path. I have to wait for morning to come. They got closer and closer to Great Ruins. From their current position, they could already see the black figure of God-broken mountain range, which was like a high wall stretching from the earth to the heaven in front of them. The God-broken mountain range, which stretched for God only knows how many thousands of miles, was incomparably difficult to cross even without mysterious pearl crossbows. Qin Mu was thinking of finding a place to settle when the light of a lamp caught his attention below. It was a village which had lighted up their lamps when night fell. "Young master, be careful of a trap." Qin Devil King sneered. "We can't see a village in a radius of 1,000 miles, yet one popped out here of all places. Naturally, it's a trap." Qin Mu said, "Fatty dragon, continue walking, ignore it." The dragon Qilin stepped on the fire clouds and continued to head towards God-broken mountain range. After a dozen miles, another light came from a village near the border. The lamplight there was dim, and there were only a dozen houses. The arrangement of the houses and the position of the light given by the oil lamp was exactly the same as that small village's earlier. Qin Mu's pupil contracted slightly, and he said solemnly, "Continue walking." The dragon Qilin continued forward and saw that village after walking another dozen miles. The houses, lights, and all the arrangements were exactly the same, without any changes. The dragon Qilin felt something was wrong and ran forward with all its might. After traveling hundreds of miles, they met over a dozen such villages, and all their arrangements were the exact same. The God-broken mountain range also seemed as far as before. After sprinting a few hundred miles forward, they should have already reached the bottom of the mountains by now, but the distance between them never seemed to change. "This person is not ordinary, he can fold the space." Qin Devil King was completely disheartened. "Rascal, you can't escape. We'll enter the village," Qin Mu said ruthlessly. The dragon Qilin and Hulinga jumped in fright. Truly angry, Qin Mu growled, "I shall kill whoever dares to block my way home for New Year's. Enter the village." The dragon Qilin descended, and his body shrank, returning back to normal. Qin Mu jumped off the dragon Qilin's back while Hulinga hung around his neck like a scarf made from fox skin. Qin Devil King followed behind him and looked around with his 4 faces cautiously. Qin Mu walked towards the village entrance and saw that this village was very normal. There were flagpoles at the entrance, and under them were the stone stumps for horses. The village was very serene, with a dog barking at them, looking very fierce with its snarling teeth. The fox on Qin Mu's neck secretly opened her eyes and scared the dog. The wooden door opened up and an elder walked out while raising an oil lamp. The dog came to the back of the elder and grew courageous again, starting to bark once more. Qin Mu had a gentle expression and greeted the other, "I was passing by when I saw your treasured land. The sky is turning dark and there's no place for me to rest around here, so heaven took pity on me by letting me meet Elder. Could Elder accommodate us by giving us a place to rest? Heavenly Devil Cult Master is too courteous." That elder had long and narrow facial features with his white eyebrows drooping lowly. "The village is very small, but we have many empty guest rooms. If Cult Master doesn't despise it, he can find a house to rest in." The fox fur on Qin Mu's neck exploded as it trembled uncontrollably. Qin Devil King and the dragon Qilin were astonished. This white-eyebrow elder didn't even bother to cover anything and referred to Qin Mu as Heavenly Devil Cult Master. It was obvious he had no intention to hide and disdained covering up the truth. Their act of going in circles on the spot was probably the doing of this elder. Qin Mu said his thanks and asked, "Elder, how many people are in this village?" The white-eyebrowed elder said, "Currently there's only a human and a dog, however, I have hung lamps in each and every one of the rooms. In a bit, the villagers will hurry over, and when that time comes, there will probably be a grand celebration which will be quite noisy. Heavenly Devil Cult Master, please don't turn your back away. All of us are just coolies, people who sell our lives for labor and don't know any etiquette. May Heavenly Devil Cult Master pardon us." "Not a problem, not a problem." Qin Mu bid farewell to the white-eyebrowed elder and came to the center of the village. He chose the biggest courtyard and said, "Elder, please return. We will stay here." The white-eyebrowed elder beamed at him. "Have a good night, Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Thanks for your blessing." Qin Mu pushed open the door, and the smile on his face immediately vanished. He said quickly, "Don't speak and enter the main room to sleep. No one shall open their eyes." The dragon Qilin and Hu Linga didn't understand what he meant. Duqian Devil King said, "This old thing has ill intentions." Qin Mu made a convenient pluck, and Duqian Devil King became motionless. Qin Mu opened the door to the main room and threw the machine on the floor and shut all of its 12 eyes. The dragon Qilin squeezed in while breaking the wooden door, both of whom collapsed to the ground. The dragon Qilin wanted to say something, but Qin Mu did a shush action and signaled for him to close his eyes. Hu Linga got down from Qin Mu's neck and climbed onto the dragon Qilin's back to shut her eyes. Qin Mu opened up his Daotai sack and took out a scroll. He closed his eyes and nailed a painting on the wall so it faced the entrance. Grandpa Cripple said that this painting is a village chief in his early years and it can drive away evil. Let's see if Grandpa Cripple lied to me or not. He lay down and turned his body to the entrance, his eyes staring wide open. All of the surroundings were silent. After a while, the sound of footsteps came from outside, and he heard a somewhat familiar voice which seemed to belong to Lu Wenshu. "Senior Qingshan lighted the lamps in the night to summon us over, so could it be that you have found Heavenly Devil Cult Master?" A woman said, "We are ashamed to say that we weren't able to kill him even after all the chasing, and Daoist Ku Yi even suffered under his treacherous hands, dying by a devil god he had summoned." This seemed to be the voice of Wanderer Qing Yu. The white-eyebrowed elder spoke next. "Heavenly Devil Cult Master is sleeping in the village. Senior Qingshan is still the best. Let me go and kill him right now. There's no hurry, let us wait for our other fellow practitioners before taking his life and celebrating this great victory." A moment passed, and there was another dozen footsteps. When everyone heard that Heavenly Devil Cult Master was in the village, they couldn't resist cheering and laughing as the weight lifted off their shoulders. There were sounds of people drinking outside, with the lamps brightly lit all around them. It was obvious that these strong practitioners were celebrating. Even though Heavenly Devil Cult Master's abilities aren't strong, he has many tricks up his sleeves and is truly difficult to deal with. I'm ashamed to say it, but we were injured and almost killed by the devil god he had summoned. Getting rid of this devil today will be considered as returning justice to the world. Come, cheers. Senior brother Feng Chiwu is here. Come, let us celebrate ridding the world of this devil. The lights outside were very bright, and the shadow of the window frames in Qin Mu's house flickered non-stop. The weather was very cold, and Qin Mu could see Hu Linga shivering, so he stretched his hand to place it on her little tummy. Hu Linga turned her head back, and Qin Mu hurriedly stretched out 2 fingers to cover her eyelids. Outside, many experts who had intercepted Qin Mu were rushed in one after another from all places, and the laughter grew louder as they exchanged cups of wine and celebrated. After some time, they heard the white-eyebrowed elder say with a laugh, "Everyone, the night is late, it's time to send Heavenly Devil Cult Master on his way." Hu Linga trembled as she heard the door to the courtyard creaking open. However, she didn't dare to open her eyes. Lu Wenshu walked into the courtyard first, smiling. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is actually asleep, deep asleep. Suddenly, his head slid off his neck without any warning, and his corpse collapsed to the ground. A great expert of celestial being realm had died just like this. There's an expert in the courtyard. Brother Lu was killed. Commotion broke out outside the courtyard, and a boom was heard as the strong practitioners broke through the wall of the courtyard and barged in. Flames blazed around their bodies, and behind them were the apparitions of gods with aura overflowing into the sky. Just as they landed on the ground, their heads suddenly slid off their necks. Even though they all had great abilities, they still died inexplicably. It was as if there was a formless god swinging his formless sword in this courtyard, severing the heads of whoever dared to barge in. In the main room, Hulinga was sprawled on the dragon Chaline's back. From that position, she sneakily opened her eyes to see the heads rolling off. It was a queer sight. There was clearly no enemy, but when the strong practitioners of celestial being realm stepped into the courtyard, they would immediately die an unnatural death. The others reacted as if they had met a great enemy. A celestial being realm practitioner gave a shout, and his sword chi covered his entire body like frost as he entered the courtyard. With a wary gaze, he swept his eyes everywhere. His sword skill was intricate, and there were countless sword lights swimming around his body like incomparably fine fishes. The method he had taken was a passive one to defend oneself. With thousands of fine sword fishes which contained his incomparably dense cultivation swimming around him, he could have them immediately counterattack when met with hostility and deliver a killing blow. He had no choice but to do this since the enemy came and went without leaving any traces or shadow, so he couldn't see where the enemy was exactly and how he had made his move. With so many strong practitioners of celestial being realm having lost their lives here, it was just too strange. He didn't meet any danger right away, but he didn't dare to let his guard down as he slowly walked towards the main room that Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping in. There, he saw a painting hanging in the room. Qin Mu had lighted up a candle in front of this painting, lighting it up. On the painting was the back of a middle-aged man with a sword strapped to it. The middle-aged man's face was slightly tilted as if he was using the corner of his eye to glance at the painter. That corner of the eye revealed an astonishingly murderous intent. This lithe glance was captured by the painter who turned it into a painting. Even though there was only the middle-aged man in the picture, it gave people the feeling that there was an endless amount of information which wasn't drawn, and it lay hidden in the blank spaces around. This was the conclusion of a terrifying military campaign. Countless corpses of strong practitioners lay at the feet of this middle-aged man, floating in a sea of blood overflowing to the sky. The white bones were dyed red by blood and reflected an abnormal color. Countless lost souls that had died under the sword were captured by the messengers of deaths and dragged to the depths of gloom. In there, a devil god with 2 long horns that had 9 bends was currently holding a banquet to celebrate the souls of all the strong practitioners becoming his guests and food. This was the information hidden in the blank spaces of this painting. In the courtyard, the expert of celestial being realm was stunned when he saw this painting and the person in it. He saw his own head sliding from his neck and felt everything becoming incredibly slow as he fell into a darkness that had no light. He felt himself sinking downwards endlessly, never reaching the bottom of that darkness. Thump! His head landed on the ground and tumbled 2 rounds. His eyes were still staring wide open. Suddenly, a huge hand stretched over and grabbed his head. There were still 9 people outside the courtyard who stood there with terror on their faces. Only the white-eyebrowed elder, Daoist Qingshan, was still composed. He was the one who had grabbed the head of the celestial being realm expert. He was also the only great expert of life and death realm among all of them. Daoist Qingshan looked into the eyes of the expert and let out a deep breath. Superb sword. The other 8 people immediately looked over and asked in trembling voices, what did Senior Qingshan discover? Look at his eyes. The 8 people gathered over and saw that there was a sword light in both the left and the right eye of this expert. The sword seemed to have gone straight towards his face, and in the next instant, the life of this expert had ended. Daoist Qingshan lifted the head and looked towards the main room in which Qin Mu and the rest were sleeping. The sword is from there. What exactly is there? He slowly moved his body and found a good angle. Like this, he saw the flickering light of a candle and a corner of a painting. It's a painting. I can see the corner of the shirt of the person in the painting. Senior Qingshan, is there a need for such trouble? Won't it be fine just to destroy this entire house and the people inside? A strong practitioner of celestial being realm suddenly made a move, and his sword pellet rose into the air. A pillar-like sword light came out and stabbed towards the house where Qin Mu and the rest were in with a whoosh. That sword pillar was incomparably thick, and everything it passed by was shredded to pieces. This was spiral sword form which Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had found it. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was not a selfish person. The sword forms he founded were mostly passed down, and there were many sword sects in the martial world that cultivated his sword mastery. The person who had made his move just then was one of the professionals. His understanding of spiral sword form was above that of many others. This move sword was impressive, and if it swept into the main room, it would definitely grind everything there to powder, removing it from existence. No matter if it was Qin Mu, Duqian Devil King, or the Dragon Qilin, all of them would be shredded into pieces. Don't point your murderous intent at that painting. Daoist Qingshan's expression changed suddenly, and he wanted to stop the other, but it was already too late. The sword pillar seemed to have met a formless barrier, for it stopped in the air before disintegrating inch by inch. It then exploded with a bang. A red mark appeared at the heart of the strong practitioner's brows, and a drop of fresh blood dripped out before he collapsed on the ground. Be careful, on your guard. Daoist Qingshan shouted sternly. His aura burst forth, and 6 booms rang out from his body. Spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, his 6 great divine treasures had opened all at once. Around him, the strong practitioners of celestial being realm couldn't maintain their footings and were forced to move back continuously by his overflowing aura. Whoosh! Behind Daoist Qingshan, an apparition of a god that had a dragon's head and a human body appeared. It looked like the god had descended with half of his body still in the void while the other half was stepping into reality. Daoist Qingshan grabbed onto a mirror and stared anxiously at Qin Mu and the rest who were still sleeping in the main room before shouting in a hoarse voice. Aren't you guys going to be on guard? Are you courting disaster? At this moment, Qin Mu, who was pretending to be asleep in the main room, narrowed his eyes and saw a human figure floating down from the wall behind him. He could see the shadow of a middle-aged man's back which was elongated by the candle's light. This middle-aged man that had walked down from the painting was tall and slim and had a treasure sword on his back. He was very quiet and seemed like a spirit with no corporeal body as he floated towards the courtyard. The figure raised its head to look at the sky and pulled out the sword on its back. The man waved his sword around and sang in a low voice as the sword lights moved while the fishes and dragons danced. Sword of founding emperor, sea of blood, mountains and rivers exist, vast and obscure heart, looking around left and right, no more people donning the clothes of homeland. Qin Mu didn't dare to move at all, feeling that there were sharp sword chi and sword lights everywhere in this world that was moving to and fro beside him, swimming in time and space. He shut his eyes but there were still sword lights flashing in front of his eyes, tearing apart the darkness. He heard sword chi which was very rapid and fleeting breaking through the air. He opened his eyes, and there were sword lights crisscrossing everywhere in front of him. Angry shouts came from outside of the courtyard, and a terrifying aftermath suddenly bombarded him. In the dusky night, the other houses of the village flew into the sky, disintegrating and shattering into pieces. Qin Mu's heart thumped wildly. Grandpa Death had bestowed a soul, he had bestowed a soul to village chief in the painting. Suddenly, all of the sound and light vanished, along with the low singing voice. Qin Mu's eyes were half opened, and he could faintly see a figure walking towards him as if it wanted to return to the painting behind him. Suddenly, that figure fell apart and turned into a pool of ink on the ground. Qin Mu was stunned for a moment, then immediately opened his eyes. He took a careful look backward and saw a piece of white paper hanging on the wall. The light from the lamp flickered, while the surroundings were completely silent. Qin Mu let out a deep breath, and Hu Linga opened her eyes and asked in a low voice, "Young master. It's safe now, let's sleep." He then added, "We still need to cross the mountains tomorrow and walk for quite a long time." Hu Ling buried her head down, and Qin Mu also lay down. Looking at the white paper behind the candle's light, he felt tranquility in his heart. The next day, Qin Mu woke up and came to the courtyard. The little village from yesterday had turned into a piece of empty land, with no sign of any of the other houses. Only half of their own courtyard remained, with over half of the walls already collapsed. The east room was mostly gone, while the west room's ceiling was missing. Qin Mu washed up and started making breakfast with his wok. Hu Linga adjusted Dutian Devil King's mechanism and ran out with him. While she was out, she cried out non-stop in astonishment. The dragon Qilin woke up groggily and took a look outside. He gave a yawn and licked his claws, using them to wash his face before asking curiously, "Where are we now? Where did the village from yesterday go? Cult Master, is it time for breakfast? Can you scatter some cumin on my scarlet fire spirit pills today? I would like a change of taste." Qin Mu grabbed some cumin and took out half a bucket of scarlet fire spirit pills, on which he scattered the cumin. The dragon Qilin lowered his head to look at his food before raising his head up in doubt. "It's only half a bucket." Qin Mu said angrily, "You are so fat that you can't even run now. Half a bucket is more than enough." The dragon Qilin said, "My body is still growing. If you dock my food, I won't be able to grow." "Your body is still growing?" Qin Mu blew up and tried to pinch the flesh on the dragon Qilin's belly and discovered that he couldn't do it at all. "Your body isn't growing, so it's your fat that's growing. Try pinching yourself and see if you can pinch a fold out." The dragon Qilin also stretched out his claws to pinch and discovered that he couldn't pinch it as well. "My constitution is one that can grow fat even if I drink cool water." Hu Linga ran over and said angrily, "Fatty dragon, you shall drink cool water from today onwards then." The dragon Qilin immediately protected the scarlet fire spirit pills in front of him and smiled apologetically. "Aren't I just scared I will starve and want to eat slightly more? All right, half a bucket it is, no less, or else I'm really going to become skin and bones." Dutian Devil King walked over when he saw that Qin Mu had finished eating and was taking down the painting, which was now simple white paper. "This painting was painted by your elder?" Qin Mu nodded. Dutian Devil King was silent for a moment, then asked, "The person in the painting is also your elder?" Qin Mu placed the scroll painting into his Daotai sack with a nod. Dutian Devil King said, "I'm not afraid of them. However, it's by no means a good way to keep me trapped in this devil god sculpture, so why don't you undo the seal so my consciousness can leave your world and return to Dutian to never step onto this land? How about it?" Qin Mu didn't express his opinion and instead said, "Linga, eat faster so we can continue on our journey." Dutian Devil King's head started to ache. After Hu Linga was full, Qin Mu came forward to help wash the bowls and utensils, then put the cleanly washed bowls and utensils back into Daotai sack. He looked at the rations inside and said, "There's enough for us to last till Great Ruins. Lord Devil King, let's go." Dutian Devil King went after, saying, "I'm not afraid of them. If my true body descended, I would be afraid of nobody." God-broken mountain range stretched over tens of thousands of miles, and when Qin Mu and the rest reached its bottom, they could only see the incomparably precipitous mountain range that was hard to cross for even the nimble apes and flying birds. Qin Mu took out the geographical map of Eternal Peace and carefully searched for something before smiling. "Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon isn't far from here. Let's go." Just as he was saying that, a line parted from the dark cloud in the sky, and a huge red snake popped its head out, spewing great flames. The heat scattered the cloud layer in all directions, and a brilliant swarm of golden insects flew out in all directions. Some of them went in the direction of the group of 4. "Other people beat the young and comes the old, mine's better, beats the old and comes the young." Qin Mu sighed ruefully in his heart. It was really good to be Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Since Long Jiaonan and the woman from Three Wonders Castle had come here, it meant that the other young experts were around too. If Qin Mu was caught by these people, it would be troublesome. Hu Linga controlled the demon wind and swept away the insects that were flying over, sending them far away. "Young Master, aren't these people going home for New Year's? They probably treat killing me as New Year's celebration." Qin Mu shook his head and said, "Other than killing me, they still want to kill the Emperor. They definitely can't kill me, but I wonder if they can kill the Emperor. After all, the Emperor is a much bigger target than me." Hu Linga had handled the situation very well by blowing the insects away. Long Jianan and the rest wouldn't be able to find this place and locate Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon. This place wasn't far from where they were, and Qin Mu started walking towards it. The terrain here was not precipitous like in the other areas, however, there was something different around here. The surroundings were bleak, with no greenery at all. The entire mountain was littered with withered trees, which were black like the ground. This made people associate it with being bad. What if they kill the emperor? Hu Linga asked. Qin Mu took the first step into Lonely Mountain Ridge, and Hu Linga immediately followed up by jumping onto the dragon Chilene's back. She then skipped onto its head to look around. If they killed the emperor and had the crown prince ascend, Imperial Preceptor's reform will be overturned, Qin Mu answered. Imperial Preceptor will then get rid of the crown prince and change to an obedient emperor. But even if Imperial Preceptor doesn't do that, I will do it. I will also invite Imperial Preceptor to become the fourth cult Heavenly King since I have reserved this seat for him for quite a long time. However, they will not be able to kill the Emperor and Imperial Preceptor will not be willing to be the fourth Heavenly King. Withered trees littered the ground, and there were no branches or leaves. The little white fox was pretty nervous as she felt these withered stems were like razor-sharp claws and the warped trunks were like scary faces. All of them terrified her. There's blood of a god and a devil here, which tainted this place. Duqian Devil King swatted a few insects flying to him before grabbing a clump of soil and rubbing it. Strange, this blood is very strange. I can't tell if it belonged to a god or a devil. There are parts of both of them in it. A blood which contained both the blood of a god and the blood of a devil. Interesting. Qin Mu asked with curiosity, Lord Devil King, could the blood of a god and a devil have been scattered here at the same time? He had seen the blood of a devil god, which was very powerful. He had entered the darkness of great ruins with village chief back then, and village chief had managed to injure a devil god in the darkness. One drop of blood from that devil god dripped onto the soil, and the greenery in a radius of 300 yards had all withered, becoming much like the situation in Lonely Mountain Ridge. That was just one drop of devil blood. Here, however, the entire Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon had been tainted, which showed that there was definitely quite a large amount of god and devil's blood spilled here. It's not that. Duqian Devil King shook his head and said, it's the same type of blood. It's just that this kind of blood contains both god and devil attributes at the same time. Your knowledge is still shallow and can't see the difference between the two options. The blood of a god indicates life, while the blood of a devil indicates death. The blood that was spilled on Lonely Mountain Ridge had both the attributes at the same time, with the god attribute hidden under the soil while the devil attribute was above, killing everything that comes out from the ground. These trees are dead, but their roots are not. On the contrary, they are abnormally healthy and strong. Some might even become spirits by relying on the life force of the god's blood. Hu Linga immediately asked, will roots become demons? They will, said Duqian Devil King. They should become a strange organism which grows many tentacles. Even though Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon had the name of a canyon, its terrain was quite high. Yet when compared to the mountain ranges beside it, it was much lower. This black canyon was winding upwards, and the mountain road wasn't easy to walk on. Heavenly Devil Cult must have gone through a lot of trouble to smuggle goods through here. Once in a while, there would be a black stone tablet on the road which was about a dozen yards high. They contained rune markings, and Qin Mu took a while to identify them. It's demon suppression runes from our sacred cult. Linga, don't touch them, you will be sucked in if you activate them. Hu Linga jumped in shock. There are quite a lot of demon suppression stones in Lonely Mountain Ridge, so it seems like Heavenly Saint Cult had spent quite a lot of effort in paving this passage. This also means that there are many demons here which are very terrifying. Qin Mu counted the number of demon suppression black stone tablets he had met on the way, and there were as many as 46 of them. This was not even half of the journey, so if the stone tablets could only suppress one demon each, that would make 46 demons this far. However, demon suppression black stone tablets were a dozen yards high, so it was impossible that they were only suppressing one demon each. Based on their size, the number of demons suppressed here should be pretty impressive. They came to the center of the valley and saw a lake there. Snow was everywhere in the mountains, along with cold weather, yet there was actually a lake here, which would make people click their tongues in wonder. There was also an old dried-up tree beside the lake which covered a very wide area. Densely packed stone tablets, which numbered to several hundred pieces, surrounded the tree and the lake entirely. Qin Mu and the rest jumped in shock. For so many demon suppression black stone tablets to be here, could there be a few hundred demons being suppressed here? Even though Qin Mu was the devil cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, he didn't know much about this passage in Lonely Mountain Ridge. He didn't know what Heavenly Devil Cult had met here back then. Could it be a demon country? Qin Mu muttered. However, why are there so many stone tablets around this ancient tree? It doesn't seem like many demons are being suppressed, but instead this tree and the lake. Just as he said this, he suddenly heard a call for help from the lake. The dragon Qin was tall, so his gaze went past the black stone tablet when he raised his head. Taking a glance, he said slowly, "There's a woman bathing there." "Help, help," she cried out again. Hu Linga immediately jumped onto the dragon Qin's head and looked towards the lake before saying angrily, "Fatty dragon, is that bathing? She's obviously drowning." "It's bathing," the dragon Qin said slowly. "She's not wearing clothes, so she's naturally bathing. Have you seen anyone drown while being naked?" "Naked?" Qin Devil King was surprised and delighted and hurriedly climbed to the head of the dragon Qin to look towards the lake. There was indeed a naked woman drowning in the lake, and he could see her seductive figure struggling in the water. With all the curves, Qin Devil King got an eyeful and exclaimed in admiration, "This demoness is beautiful. Rascal, come have a look." Qin Mu smiled. "There are still pursuers behind, let's go." After he said it, he took a sneaky glance through the gap between the black stone tablets. "Young master is an upright gentleman." Hu Linga was full of confidence and praise. "The officials outside, help me," the woman in the lake cried out miserably. "Quickly push down the stone tablets and save me, I'll then devote my life to you." Qin Mu and the rest took a detour around the lake, and Hu Linga said loudly, "Demoness, my young master will not be tricked by you. You should know that my young master is the sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult." Suddenly, the woman became silent and a sinister voice sounded out, "Sacred cult master of Heavenly Saint Cult?" Whoosh! The water in the lake that was surrounded by the black stone tablets overflowed into the sky as countless pitch-black roots came rushing up like tentacles. At the end of each one was a naked woman in her prime of youth. They all looked at Qin Mu, and countless ear-piercing shrieks rang out in the air. "Heavenly Saint Cult! Heavenly Saint Cult is the one who suppressed me here. They used these black stone tablets to suppress my body, to suppress my legs and my hands." Boom, boom. In Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, the black stone tablets trembled as a huge body struggled under them, trying to break the seals. Qin Mu jumped in shock. He had seen so many black stone tablets there were in Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon and thought they were suppressing countless demons, maybe even a whole country. Never did he think that all these stone tablets were suppressing a single huge demon. The black tablets trembled continuously, and the soil beside them loosened as if they were going to be uprooted. The runes suddenly lighted up, and the stone tablets suddenly became like huge mountains that were incomparably heavy. They pressed down on the demon of Lonely Mountain Ridge, making it unable to move. "I want revenge." In the sky above the lake, the faces of the countless women warped and cried out mournfully, "I want to kill every single person in your Heavenly Saint Cult." The black stone tablets around the lake lighted up, and the light from the runes shone on the ancient tree. The tentacles above the lake seemed to be dragged down by a weird force, and the women shrieked miserably. They tried to grab around, but they couldn't get hold onto anything and were gradually dragged into the lake. This lake should be the damaged land that received the blood of a god and a devil. That blood was then absorbed by this ancient tree. Qin Devil King asked in bewilderment, "Why does your homeland have so much strange stuff?" Qin Mu smiled. "My homeland has much stranger things than this. Let us hurry and walk out of Lonely Mountain Ridge before nightfall so we can find a safe place." "What a pity. Jutian Devil King smacked his lips and said, "That little demoness was quite pretty, much prettier than the women in my Jutian." At this moment, Long Jiaonan and Chiao Yu met up with Scholar Lan Yu, Monk Ban Kai, and Yuan Shan while looking for traces of Qin Mu. Suddenly, they felt a tremble coming from Lonely Mountain Ridge, and they all looked towards there. Scholar Lan Yu cried out, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master went to God-broken mountain range. Isn't he afraid of getting shot by the mysterious pearl crossbows?" Chiao Yu waved her hand, and countless insects flew in the direction of Lonely Mountain Ridge. Heavenly Devil Cult Master is cunning, so if he went through God-broken mountain range, there probably is a way to survive there. My insects will find a path, and we shall follow behind. Everyone hurried towards Lonely Mountain Ridge while the swarm of insects poured forward. While flapping their wings, they came to the lakeside where they could see demon clouds permeating the air and hear never-ending cries of, "Heavenly Devil Cult Master, I will kill you, I will definitely kill you and eliminate Heavenly Saint Cult." Everyone looked at each other, and Monk Ben Kai coughed, then said loudly, "Demoness, what grudge do you have with Heavenly Devil Cult Master?" A woman in the prime of her youth revealed her naked body on the surface of the lake while crying pitifully, "Heavenly Saint Cult has been suppressing me here for a few hundred years. The grudge between him and me is as deep as the ocean, and we cannot live under the same sky. If you can save me, I am willing to devote my life to you." Monk Ben Kai smiled. "I'm a monk, so I don't need you to devote your life to me. You just have to convert to Buddhism and assist me in killing Heavenly Devil Cult Master, then this little monk will break the seal here and release you." "I'm willing to convert to Buddhism," the woman cried out in surprise and delight. Scholar Lan Yu, Yuan Shan, Yue, and the rest frowned as they wanted to advise against it, but Monk Ban Kai had already pulled out a black stone tablet and thrown it on the ground. "Fellow Dao friends, this is a demon that Heavenly Devil Cult has suppressed, and since Heavenly Devil Cult belongs to the Devil Path, the demon they suppressed must be a good demon. Everyone, help me push down all these demon suppression stones to save this friend." Everyone could only go forward and push down the stone tablets together. Boom! The mountains trembled, and the roots rose up once again. Below the tree, a huge black ball swelled up continuously, becoming bigger and bigger. The black roots squirmed like flood dragons and huge snakes, revealing countless white bones among themselves. Monk Ban Kai saw these white bones buried under and felt a bone-chilling cold go down his spine. He suddenly had a thought that this demon which Heavenly Devil Cult had suppressed might not be a friend of the same path. On the contrary, it could be an existence that was even more wicked than Heavenly Devil Cult. "Quickly run!" Long Jiaonan screeched. Everyone hurriedly sprinted away in the direction of great ruins. "I'm free, I'm finally free!" Countless mournful cries could be heard behind them as black stone tablets trembled before collapsing onto the ground. Thick tentacles tunneled out from the ground, waving non-stop. At the end of each root was a beautiful smiling woman. Heavenly Saint Cult said I had eaten too many humans, so they suppressed me here. Thank you, little monk. I can finally eat humans again. This video will end here.